Hello, it's Susan here. I'm going to talk to you today about the next steps of completing my sleeveless Fair pullover that I've been working on for the last couple of months. If you look back on some of the previous videos, you'll see the progress I've very slowly been making as I've worked my way through. It is the ladies sleeveless Fair pullover, which is from Stitch in Time Volume 2 Revisited, and very shortly it's also going to be released as a single pattern, which is very exciting. So let me just show you where I am up to, and you'll be very pleased to know that I have completed the knitting of the body in its entirety. So you can see here that the sweater is basically all finished in terms of the main colourwork sections. And before we started filming today, I also completed the shoulder seams, and with this particular piece it is a sewn shoulder seam cast rather than any sort of other cast off. So you might be able to see here, but I'll show you better later once we've got the garment on the table, that I've just sewn these shoulders up with a back stitch with the wrong side of the work facing. Your pattern will tell you how you should be finishing off your shoulders. So it might be that you need to graft it together, or it might be that you need to do a 3 needle bind off. And they're things that we'll look at another point in a later tutorial. But for now, I've followed the pattern and I have sewn together my shoulder seams. So I have also put my back stitches for the neck, the last few back stitches that remain after doing the shoulders, onto waste yarn. Not that easy to see, but you can just hopefully see the white thread there, which shows you where the back stitches are. At the moment, the way the garment is set up, I still have a little steek here at the front. I'm just going to find the opening at the bottom so you can see where it begins and ends. Little tiny opening there that you might just be able to see where my finger's gone in, and then up to the top here. So this tiny little bit here, this is your front neck steek. And we're going to follow the same process as we're going to do for the armhole in a moment, by cutting that one open and then picking up the stitches to work the V-neck. But what I'm going to focus on today is the exciting bit that you've all been waiting for, which is showing you how to prepare to reinforce the armhole steek and then cut it open, ready for picking up the stitches for the armband. And I'll also show you how to pick up those stitches as well. So I'll just sort of, again, I'll just put my thumb there where you can see where the steek begins and where it ends. And this is what we're going to focus on today. The system we're going to follow here applies for all the different steeks that you might do, either the centre front of a cardigan, such as like Vita that I'm wearing here, or armholes or necklines. So once you've done the technique for one, you can do the technique for all of them. So off we go then. Okay, so I've now got the armhole steek in front of me, and I have started reinforcing the steek before I cut it open. And what that means is that on either side of the cutting area, I am running a line of stitches. So the way I do my steeks, as you know, if you've been following one of the patterns, is that I work them in columns of colours to make it easier to identify where I'm going to cut. And on this particular one, you can see here that there are 2 columns where the colours are the same, running right down the centre of the steek. And between those 2 rows of stitches is my cutting line. And so what I've done up to now is I have run a line of back stitch that I have hand sewn on the outer edge of the first side of the cutting lines. That goes from there all the way up to the end of this side, and I am in the process of doing the same on the other side. So you can see I'm just up to here. Now this is something you can also do on a sewing machine. You can run a line of stitching with a sewing machine if you feel comfortable doing so. I am quite happy just to use a regular sewing needle and to do back stitch, so that's what I will just carry on doing now. So I am just going to open up the knitting a little bit there with my finger, and I will just carry on working a back stitch. In a straight line directly on the outer edge of the cutting line. And you might just be able to see I use the thread doubled just to make it that little bit stronger, and I usually use something that is a contrast. Now you don't need to worry, because this is all getting cut away, you won't see this thread afterwards. It will be in the Steek section that will either be turned underneath or would be trimmed away when you're tidying it up. So you don't need to worry about how visible it is. Now this is the only reinforcing that I do. I don't do anything like needle felt the Steek or anything like that. I don't find the need. That's partly obviously because of the yarn that I use, but I am confident that once the stitches are picked up that the Steek is definitely not going anywhere. So I just back stitch before cutting, and I would say if you're using wool you should be able to do the same. So I'm almost at the end now, so I'll just hopefully won't run out of yarn before I get there. Should just have enough to finish off, and I normally go over the end just to hold those end stitches in place. Just get my scissors and I'll just cut that off. So there we go. Right, so I am now ready to do the deed to cut open the Steek. I've turned the work the other way round because I'm going to cut from the tricky end to the more open end. So the slight difference with doing an armhole Steek compared to doing a cardigan front opening Steek is that you don't have the entire length of the garment steeked. We're only starting at the underarm point, so it just means that it's slightly trickier to navigate. So I tend to hold the Steek area with my left hand, and it enables me to sort of open up at the top end and get my scissors in. So I'm actually working from right to left, holding the scissors in my right hand. If you were holding the scissors in your left, you'd obviously reverse that. So I'm going to get my scissors. They're sharp but not too large, these ones, but they're a nice sharp pair, but you just need to watch your fingers. So I'm just going to make a start, and you can see I've got my 2 columns of matching stitches, and you can see my green thread on either side, and I'm going to cut right down the middle here. Now, because I've got my fingers in the hole, I know I can't accidentally cut the layer underneath, so that is always reassuring. And then we just commence to cut. So here we go, we are just going through, and you are just following that stitch, that line between those 2 rows of stitches. Okay, and you can see it's already opening up. So I'm just going to move down a little and carry on. Get a little thread there, and then again. I'm just going to you just again, and you can see we're almost at the bottom already. I'm just going to go through these last sections and then through there. Okay, I'm going to pop the scissors down, and I'm going to, oh, we've got one little bit of thread there, and I'm just going to turn the work again so you can see better, and you can now see that we have an armhole. There is our shoulder seam, like so, and these sections here that are not joined together at the shoulder are the steek, the actual steek itself. And there we go, that is one steeked armhole. Okay, so we've now got our armhole, and I normally work one at a time, so I'll leave the second armhole still closed up with the steek, and I will just work on this one. Now, one of the first things you'll notice is that we have got our underarm stitches on waste yarn. So to make life easy, what I tend to do is use a spare double pointed needle, and I slip these stitches onto the double pointed needle ready to knit them. So I'm just going to undo my waste yarn, and then I will slip my stitches back on to this double pointed needle. Trying to take care not to split the stitches. I think that stitch is actually split, so we can sort that out once we take the waste yarn away. It just makes life a little bit easier when you actually come to work these. That's another one that looks like it's split, so I'll just tidy that up when we come to it. Double pointed needles are always very handy for this sort of job, just having them around in your everyday knitting bag is very handy because they serve a lot of uses. So they just tend to get a little bit tight when you get to this end of the waste yarn, so it's always a good idea again to get those stitches back onto a needle just to fill them back out again. That last one is a bit sneaky. There we go. So we've got them all back on, and we can pull this waste yarn out, and there we go. So there's our underarm stitches back on to a needle ready to work. Now, the other thing we need to do is think about how we're going to position these stitches as we pick them up. So you always need to refer to your pattern, of course, and according to my pattern here, I have got to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got to pick up 54 stitches up one side of my armhole, and then 54 stitches down the other side of my armhole. So what I like to try and do is split these up into smaller amounts so that I'm dividing the stitches up evenly between the length of the armhole. And then of course we have the other added thing to remember is that we also have our steek here. So in actual fact, we want to be picking up our stitches on the inside of our steek. And we also have our shaping here. So we're actually going to be picking up just on the other side of our shaping. But from our shoulder seam down to this point down here, we need to pick up a total of 54 stitches. So normally what I do, just to get a rough idea of where the halfway point of that is that I would fold the armhole in half, like so, and get the halfway point, which is roughly there. Then we're going to open it back up again, get a pin, and we're just going to mark that off as our halfway point, and we're going to actually be 3 stitches in from the edge when we're picking up. So half of 54 is 27. So this lower section is going to want 27 stitches, and this upper section is also going to want 27 stitches. What I do tend to find is that the slope can sometimes be a little tricky, and you might need more in this lower half than you need in the top half, and that can be okay. Just be careful that you don't too unevenly distribute them. So 27 now split into half is going to be a 14 and a 13. So I'm gonna fold that again from the pin to the shoulder and get my halfway point again, and I'm going to put another pin in here, which is roughly going to tell me where my 14 and 13, so probably 14 stitches here and 13 stitches up to the top. And then likewise at the bottom section, I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to split that. So we do 14 in the first half and 13 in the second. I tend to only do the first half of the armhole first, so I can see how that works out. And if I need to make any adjustments, I don't need to then change my pins on the other side as well. But I'm going to go right round on this because I've actually started on the right hand side of the armhole, when actually you'd be going up the left first. So I'm going to turn this round, and I'm going to do exactly the same on this side. So you can see here that our 14 is directly above my decreases at the underarm, so I'm going to pop that one in there. Based on the pattern, this is what's great about Colourwork, you can use the physical pattern to tell you where you're up to. We are coming in under that second yellow, so I'm just going to pop another pin in right there, and then our next pin is right through the white line of that little motif, so we're going to pop the third pin in there as our guide. Okay, and so we are ready to start picking up stitches. So I've got my skein, well, my ball of wool, and I have my circular needle here, and I just need to check whether I knit my underarm stitches first, whether I knit half my underarm stitches, or whether I knit them last. Yeah, so according to this pattern, we're only going to knit across the first half of these from the centre point to the end, and then we're going to go up the side. And we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So we've got 26 stitches. So I'm just going to slip the first 13 of those just onto this needle. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's the one that was split, I think. So I'm going to tidy that one up if I can. Might do that when I come back, I don't know. 12, 13, just double check. 3, 6, 9, yeah, 13, okay. Now I should have a stitch marker, but I haven't, so I'm not going to worry about that for now. I'm just going to start knitting from here. So I'm going to knit my 13 stitches, just literally start knitting like so, and we'll get across these 13. Just ignore my curly cord there. 12 and 13. So that's that 13 back on there. So now we can just pop those other 13 back onto the double pointed needle to wait till we get till the end. Whoops. There we go, so just put that over there out of the way. So we're now on picking up duty. So we've now got 14 stitches to pick up on our first section here. So as I say, these first stitches are our steek, and then we want to be picking up right on the inside edge here. So we've got 14 stitches to pick up. So the way I pick up is that I go completely through from front to back of the work, so, and then just knit. So 1, 2, 3. What's great as well is that if you don't get this quite right, you just undo it and you just try again until you're happy that you've got the right number of stitches in the gap that you are trying to fill. If for some reason you definitely need a considerable more stitches than the pattern is saying, you can be flexible with an armband. There is good reason sometimes to either add more stitches or take stitches away, and you can always cast them off on the next round if necessary to make the pattern match. But what you don't want is big gaps, so it is better to add them if need be. So I've got 8 up to now. I think we're going to be just about right. Gone a bit too close there. 9. Oops. Oh, that one really doesn't want to come through. 10. 11, 12, 13, 14. So there we go. And what you will see, by virtue of picking up those stitches, the steek automatically just starts folding itself back to the wrong side. So you haven't got to force it to go back. It quite happily goes back. So I'm going to take that first pin out. And then I'm going to carry on now doing another 13. Now it's really important once you're on a straight line that you follow a straight line. So every single stitch needs to be picked up in that groove here on this occasion. You can pick up halfway through a stitch if you prefer, but I like having a full V as my sort of edge to my garment. I just feel it looks nicer, so that's what I tend to do. I know some people sometimes pick up the loop. I would not recommend doing that. I would definitely always go right through the work, because that is how you hold the steek, how you secure it. Just try and avoid picking up bits of wool as you're going. So 1, 2, 3. Just keep pulling it along so it doesn't resist. 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry about that. 8. I've just picked a little bit of white there, so just let it drop back down. 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And now you can see there I have followed a perfectly straight line of stitches, and it is so neat because of that. And that's what you're aiming for, is that straight line. if you veer off just with one stitch, it completely upsets how it looks vertically, and just really upsets the whole process really. I've lost one there, so I'm just going to pop that back in so I remember where I'm going to. So we're now halfway up one side. So we're going to do another 14 now from here to this point. So never try rushing this. Just as I say, if it doesn't work out, just pull them out and start again. And if you see that you've veered off the straight line, always go back. You'll regret it if you don't, sadly. 6. Just checking I'm still in the right. Whoops. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12, this one might just run a bit short here, 13, 14, so I am going to use, I'm going to add an extra one there and just remember that I've done 15 to that point. This, the ribbing on this overall arm band is just a 1x1 rib. So as long as I put 15 on this side as well, I've increased by 2 stitches, so it will still work out. But you do need to think about that when if you need to add an extra stitch. So now we've got 13 just to take us to the end. So let's see how we get on. So oops, get rid of that one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just check I'm still going in a straight line. Yes, I am, so we're okay. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so there we go then. I have picked up my stitches all the way around the armhole, and then to finish I've knitted the final 13 stitches off the double pointed needle, and I'm now back at the centre of the underarm. So I've popped a stitch marker in to indicate my beginning of round, and I am just going to start working my 1x1 rib now for the length specified by the pattern. Just going to get my tail from before and just catch that in at the back, just to start my weaving in process for me. So we're just doing knit 1, purl 1. I've got a little bit of a loop, bit of a magic loop going on because my needle is a slightly too long. This is an 80 centimetre, so I would say a 60 centimetre is probably ideal for an armhole. But I didn't have one that wasn't already in a project, of course. It doesn't matter how many needles you have, the one you want is always in use. So just going across our first 13, and now we're on our picked up stitches. Okay, so then I am just going to carry on, and I have to do this for 8 rounds and then cast off, and that is that armhole completely done. And then I will repeat this whole process on the second armhole, and then I will do the V-neck as well. So all 3 parts get exactly the same treatment. So there's still, in a way, there's still quite a long way to go, but it really is sort of the final fun stages that are going to bring it all together. And it's been an interesting journey, this particular piece of knitwear. As some of you may remember, when I began it, I was having trouble with a lymphedema flare up in my right arm, which caused my gauge to radically alter, and I struggled to knit at all. And then things have settled down since, and so my knitting has firmed back up and my gauge has improved. So when I come to block this, the goal will be to ensure that it all sort of blocks the same, and I will share that with you when I get to that stage. But in the meantime, I will leave you to carry on with my ribbing, and once I've finished the armbands and the V-neck, I will be back with you and to share another video with the final finishing tidying up bits on the inside of the garment, and then also blocking the garment to size. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.